What's up guys? Today we're going to deal with editing the drum. So I'm going to get into comping, track cleanup, time correction, and adding samples. Don't forget to check out the new album, The Dichotomy Paradox. Let's get started. The last thing we talked about was recording section by section. What I failed to mention was when you're recording a section, you can record multiple takes and decide which one you like later, or you can comp them together. I personally like to just decide on a take and move on, especially since I'm already taking the time to record the sections separate anyways. But let's go ahead and look at comping just in case that's a method you choose to use. So as you can see, this section was recorded 4 separate times. Okay, we want to take a close look at a fill and see if we can change it. So let's go ahead and set up a loop and take a listen. Okay, so there was nothing wrong with that fill, but let's say there was a mistake or you just wanted to see what the other fill sounds like. You can see on take 1 and 2, it's different. So let's see if we can comp those two together. With a little bit of tweaking and finesse, it seems to sound pretty natural. Now, if you got lucky and went across all the sections, all the tracks, comping, and you didn't get any pops or clicks and you're happy with it, then you can go ahead and just flatten it and merge it like this. There you go. Pretty sweet. Of course, in real life, this is never the case, and you're going to come across pops and clicks and weird anomalies. So I'm going to show you how I deal with some of those. I'm going to go ahead and create a pop for us. Okay, so let's just pretend that's the best you can do. What I would do at this point is flatten the track, which is the same thing as cutting it basically, without any sort of gluing. And then I would go ahead and create a crossfade at those cuts, a real quick crossfade. Now if I zoom in and play it, it'll take care of the pop, but it still might not sound very good. So you can hear the kick sounds a little funky. Let's zoom in and see if we can tweak it. So what's still happening is we're completely cutting the attack of the kick off. So let's tweak that. Hopefully you can get lucky and find some good cut and fade points. And that's about all I would do if I was just comping. Once you've picked the takes you like, or you've comped them together, whichever, we're going to go ahead and flatten everything and just leave ourselves with the final version of each section. Then I'm going to open up the mixer and zero everything out. Okay, so now what I can do is select every single section, and I can add a fade in and a fade out to every single section all at once. So I'm going to do a pretty short fade in. I'm going to do a fairly long fade out. And if I zoom in, you can see what that looks like on every section. If we zoom up, we can see that there's 1 bar of lead-in time. If we zoom up in this next section, again, we'll see that there's exactly 1 bar of lead-in time. If we go to the next section, there's another bar of lead-in time, and this is true for every single lead-in time and lead-out time, which is the time your drums are just resonating. So this is something to be conscious of when you're actually recording section by section. Keep it consistent, have the exact same amount of lead-in time and lead-out time every time. And what this allows me to actually do is zoom up on one section and trim it, and know that that is trimming every single section the exact same way. And if we look around, you can see that every section's already trimmed. Of course, this is just an example. You're going to want to fine tune it, but it still saves a ton of time. And the process is the exact same with the lead out time. You just find the sweet spot and do them all at once, and you're good. Now to glue everything together, we're going to make sure the group setting is turned off. We're going to select overhead left and overhead left, and we're going to glue them together as one mono track. Okay, now we're going to do overhead right and overhead right, and we're going to glue them together in mono. Okay, hi-hat and hi-hat, we're going to glue them together in mono, and then so on and so forth. Okay, now with great pleasure, I can finally delete those extra tracks, leaving me with what looks like one cleaned up drum session. What I'll do now is put together a quick mix and play some of that back for you. And voila. I like to use my DAW's built-in capabilities for time correcting. Whether it's flex time in Logic or elastic time in Pro Tools, really every DAW has some sort of similar capability. In the end, you're at the mercy of your drummer. I mean, you gotta be working with something that's pretty much in time. It's gotta be close. Otherwise, this method is just not gonna work. And really, the reason why you're doing this in the first place is each instrument's recorded separate, so you never get that group feel that you get when a band performs live. So maybe your time correction choices have nothing to do with lining things up to the grid or the metronome. Maybe you just love what the bass player did and you're going to try and line the kick up to the bass player's groove a little bit. But anyways, for this example, I'm going to go ahead and line up verse 2 to the grid. Let's go ahead and listen first. So what I'm going to do is get into our flex mode. I'm going to select all the tracks and make sure they're on the slicing algorithm. Okay, and at this point we see all the transients, and I can go ahead and manually tweak those. But for fun, let's go ahead and just quantize everything to an 8th note groove, and let's just see how well the software does with this. Okay, this is a classic example. There's a flam happening here. Okay, the computer is recognizing the transient of the hi-hat. It's lined it up to the grid, and the kick is just slightly off. Okay, well, what can be done is I can line the kick up and then force the hi-hat over a little bit, and let's just see if that actually sounds natural or not. Okay, that seemed to work, and I see another one doing the exact same thing. Let's try it again. And so you just keep going through and make tweaks wherever needed. If you're working with something real simple and straightforward, you might be able to just quantize like I did and make tweaks as necessary. Or you might be better off not quantizing and just making manual edits here and there. You can also tell the software to only worry about looking at the kick and snare and lining them up to the grid. Normally, I just go ahead and analyze every track like you see now, and I'll just make edits wherever necessary. And this is just an overview look of the process. I mean, you could get in there and tweak and tweak and tweak, but let's just go ahead and hear the difference we've already made. So that's one way you can go about time correcting some stuff. Another thing you could do is just time correct one section, for example. All you got to do is just cut out that section and turn the flex off on everything else. Okay, let's hear what that sounds like. Let's take off the metronome and take an honest listen and see if we can even tell it's been edited. Now, even if your ear's sharp enough to notice anything out of the ordinary, chances are by the time you drop the rest of the band into the mix, you probably won't hear it anymore. Adding samples is a pretty straightforward process. Let's go ahead and take a look real quick. What I like to do is hide all the tracks and then unhide the track I want to add a sample to. Okay, and then I'll just, in my DAW, go to the settings, replace or double drum track. And of course, I'm doubling, I'm not replacing the kick. And really, all you're trying to do at this point is set a threshold that enables the transients of the audio track to trigger a MIDI note. Okay, so you can zoom in and just see what's going on. Okay, and you gotta just dial that threshold till everything's being triggered properly. And of course, the computer doesn't always do a great job, so you want to go in and confirm. And sometimes you're gonna have to manually add or delete a sample here and there. Okay, at this point, you're done. You can hit OK. Now, I don't always trust the computer to do its job, so it's good to go in there and take a close look at everything, make sure things are lined up properly. But assuming everything's good, let's go ahead and just add a sound that we like. And there's tons of sample libraries that sound great. One cool thing you can do is actually create your own samples with whatever kick or snare you're using and trigger them through something like BFD or any other sampler, really. I'm going to go ahead and just use something that's built into my DAW. Okay, and once I open it, there's always tons of settings I can mess with. So let's play around for 2 seconds here. You can see there's a few different options. So we've got the sound we've been looking for. The next thing to do is tweak the MIDI data. So initially, the computer has dynamic. There's differences in the velocity of each MIDI note. And that's not what I'm going for with my workflow. So I like to force every single MIDI note to a set velocity. Okay, and I can do that in my DAW and do every single note all at one time. Okay, so I'm just gonna set everything at, say, 100. Now every single velocity is at 100 all the way across, so it's very consistent. Okay, now I would just move on to the snare and do the exact same thing. So the main reason you do this in the first place is to help your kick and snare cut through the mix, especially in heavy genres of music. And the goal is to find a sample that can blend with your kick and snare, not overpower it or replace it. So that's a quick look at editing the drums. And before we go on to the next instrument, I'm gonna quick jump ahead and show you how I might mix the drums later. So next time I'm gonna talk about channel routing, plugins, and automation. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my new website, thoughtsofmine.com, and thanks for watching.